Thanks, Andrew. The weather. Look, for the most part, we can't control the weather, but we're smart and we can manage what's dealt to us, and we've seen that over the last couple of days. In this presentation, I want to examine the risks of climate variability and climate change to agricultural production and promote risk management as an effective tool that agricultural producers can use to manage these risks. I'll use examples of rainfall reliability to demonstrate these climate risks. And whilst there's a range of climate risk management options available for producers, today I'll only focus on two. That is, decision support systems and insurance and other financial products. It's early days for these two, but they show some promise, and there's much need for innovation and opportunity for development. So let's get started. Climate variability, as opposed to climate change, refers to the short-term fluctuations in temperature, rainfall and other climatic conditions over the period of days, months and seasons. Australia is the driest and one of the most variable rainfall patterns of any inhabited continent. Rainfall variability is generally greater a climate risk than temperature for rain-fed grain cropping regions and pasture systems that we have dominating the Australian agricultural landscape. The key rainfall risks for Australia are extended periods of dryness, that is droughts, and excessive rainfall over short or long-term periods, floods. Also important is the timing of these periods of dryness and rainfall, because it may affect critical stages in plant growth and development, such as germination, flowering and fruiting. Today, I'd like to draw out the importance of the timing of rainfall, using rainfall reliability as an example, and use that in the context of a variable and then a changing climate. Rainfall reliability is defined as the consistency of rainfall over a given minimum period of time. That is the probability or frequency of receiving a defined minimum amount of rainfall being exceeded over a month, a season, or whatever time period you like to define. Information on rainfall reliability can be used to examine things like the likelihood of the minimum rainfall required to maintain soil moisture for successful germination and growth of crops or pastures. It's particularly important for grain and livestock producers in southern Australia that rely on the autumn break. And the autumn break is the first major rainfall that provides that moisture for germination and early growth of winter crops and pastures. One definition of the autumn break is a minimum of 25 millimetres of monthly rainfall in any of the months between March and June. This map was produced using the ABARES rainfall reliability wizard, which is available on the web. And it shows the percentage reliability of receiving 25 millimetres of rainfall in April across Australia. It ranges from low in red to high in blue. And it's based on the long-term climate record from 1900 to 2009. So you look at minimum of 25 millimetres in context of that long-term record. We've indicated the grain cropping region there, and you can see that there's some interesting correlations with the rainfall reliability as I go through several maps. 3 locations have been selected that are similar in some respects. That is, they're all on the same latitude. They all receive an average of 250 millimetres in the growing season from April through to October. And for the month of April, they receive somewhere in the order of 30 to 45% reliability in receiving that 25 millimetres of rainfall. If we go to May, however, the rainfall reliability of receiving that 25 millimetres increases. It increases for those 3 locations to somewhere in the order of 50 to 70%. It indicates that the autumn break is more reliable in May than April for those 3 locations. We can also explore the amount of rain, the reliability of receiving a minimum of 175 millimetres over the growing season for these 3 locations. This level of rainfall is regarded as the threshold amount to develop and set wheat grain. Now, for these 3 locations, the reliability of receiving that amount of rainfall is between 80 and 90%. That's high rainfall reliability, but also suggests that between 1 and 2 seasons every 10 are at risk of crop failure. As I said, these rainfall reliability maps are based on the long-term climate record, 1900 to present. But what if the rainfall patterns were to change in the future, say as a result of climate change? Would the reliabilities change as well? So climate change, in difference to climate variability, describes the longer-term trends, decadal and longer, in the underlying average climate and climate variability. Future climate change is predicted to lead to warmer average temperatures across Australia, increased rainfall reliability, and increases in the frequency and severity of extreme climatic events such as droughts and floods. Now, a current ABARES research project has been utilising modelled climate forecasts or projections to investigate some of the potential risks and opportunities for Australian agriculture faced with climate change, and focusing on the grain cropping regions. One aspect that's been explored is the future impact of climate change on reliability of rainfall in the autumn break and during the winter growing season. So I'll show you a bit of these results. So here, for those same 3 locations that I had on the map before, we indicate the historic climate reliability, the reliability of receiving 25 millimetres of rainfall in April based on the historic record, the green bars, and then the rainfall projections for 4 possible future climates in 2050. And under the 4 representative future climates in 2050, the remaining 4 bars, rainfall reliability in April is projected to change very little. There is some variability in the model outputs, but they're fairly consistent. Of course, there's a number of climate change models, scenarios and sensitivities that can provide us with predictions of Australia's future climate. We've just chosen one set. It's based on, for those of you interested in details, the A1FI scenario, assuming a medium climate sensitivity. This is a fossil fuel intensive scenario commonly used as it's close to the current emissions path that we're on. The 4 sets of possible future climate projections are not just plucked out of the air, however. There's been some considerable analysis and expert opinion as to what constitutes a representative set, because climate projections give us an enormous range of possible future climates. This is a specially selected set.